Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is October 13th, 2016, and yesterday I had the grand opportunity to be a guest on WSO with lead creator and Nibiru researcher Steve Olson. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite all of you to listen to this interview, and it was a fantastic interview. I definitely think it is worth your time, and if you have not subscribed to WSO, I urge you to subscribe to Steve's channel. There is a wealth of information that deals with Nibiru, so sit back and stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. It's Steve Olson with WSO. It is October 12th, 2016. I am here with my special guest and new friend, Scott, from the Nibiru channel. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Great. And by the way, here is Scott's channel, and he had to do a backup channel. We're going to be talking about that on the show a little bit today. But I really wanted to start out by encouraging everybody to go to the Nibiru channel and subscribe to Scott's channel, because we really need to stick together as a group. And Scott, you are doing a wonderful job giving us this news format, which I love. Thank you very much from all of the community.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. So Scott, thanks for coming on. And the first thing I wanted to just ask you is, we don't get a lot of time to hear a lot about you other than the kind of the tribulations you've been going through, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But,
oh, Lord, I know, right?
Amazing stuff, right? And we're going to talk. But how did you first get into this? I mean, Scott, what's your background? How did you get here? You know, tell us a little bit about you, man.
Well, it all started I started college, University of Miami, 1986. And I think it was about my second year in college. I had a theology professor, fantastic man. And just during one of our classes, he broke out into this lecture about Planet X, the whole nemesis theory. And we all sat back and we were like, what is he talking about? I mean, we're in a theology class. This has nothing to do with earth, space science, astrology, astronomy. But we were like pretty well tossed on this. But he went into this whole subject, and I was pretty intrigued by all of it. And I always loved earth, space science. And he wanted to form basically like an astronomy club within our group. And very few people actually joined it, but, I stuck with it. And just to make a long story short, years after that, graduating and, being thrust into industry and business, I did keep up with what information was out there. And there really wasn't that much. And he did turn me on to the research of Carlos Ferrata and a little bit about Dr. Robert Harrington. But mostly Carlos Ferrata, and I was pretty intrigued by Carlos Ferrata.
Wow! So this professor in the University of Miami, in a theology class, in the context of learning about theology in college, turned you on to the Nibiru concept. Wow! What an early adopter, man!
Yeah, it was very strange, and I mean, he also turned me on to paranormal research, and I mean, I've been doing paranormal research for 22 years now. And I do have my own paranormal team. I have a huge Facebook page dedicated to it. And, I stay pretty steady. But, over the last 6 months, being thrust into more research and more investigations into Nibiru, I've kind of fallen away from it. But my team is still very active in the paranormal area. But, right now, Nibiru is taking up 12 to 14 hours of my day, 7 days a week, and it's pretty much nonstop. And I've put together a small team of people to help me because, number one, I'm not a professional photographer, but I do have a friend of mine who does own a studio, and he's a professional photographer. I turned him on to this by asking for his help at looking at some photographs. And in the beginning, he had some very jaw-dropping moments because he never heard anything like this before. And I recruited him, and he's taught me a lot, and I've taught him a lot. But he does help me out with the photographs, and he has taught me a lot about the dreaded lens flare. But I decided to really start to investigate it because, I retired from the advertising industry about 5 years ago and got tired of golfing, fishing, and this all started to come up really hot and heavy. And when I felt that there was such a huge conspiracy within this Nemesis and Nibiru research, meaning we're not being told anything. We're individual men and women out there within this world trying to get answers, and nobody in higher places who have the technology, they're not saying anything. And that's something that I just don't like, because as well as I do that, this system came in and it's going to go out. And when it goes out, based on biblical history, and I mean, the story, it's going to change mankind. And I feel like we're all being left out in the cold, and I want to do my part. And even though I can't help everybody, and I'm not going to be the world's savior, but if I can touch 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 lives, at least that message will get out there. And I always say to my subscribers and in the videos, knowledge is power. And it's the truth. The more knowledge that you have on any subject, the more powerful that you're going to be. So when things start to get pretty hairy, you may look back at one of my videos or one of your videos, or one of Matt Rogers' videos or Chris Potter's videos or Jeff P's videos, and you may say, wow, I remember right now what he said. And that may save a life. I mean, honestly, that's how deep it really goes. And we do all put a lot of time into this, and this has just now become a second job. I don't sleep.
It's really like a passion, right? I mean, when you get to the level where where you are now, Scott, and where we are at WSO, where it becomes it's all consuming. Because look, we both hear this from our audience, that the first number one thing that you and I talked about, I think today, was how subscribers appreciate that people like you and I just stepping up and giving a credibility to this issue, because they felt like they were crazy and left alone.
Absolutely. It's just like the people in the UFO community. Nobody wants to say, I saw a UFO, because you'll be ridiculed. The same thing applies in the paranormal area. Nobody wants to say, oh, I was touched by a ghost, a spirit, because you feel that you'll be ridiculed. And that shouldn't happen, because I truly believe, and I know that these things exist. I've seen many UFOs. I've photographed them. I've dealt with spirits. I've spoken to them. I mean, I know that sounds outrageous, but in 22 years of doing paranormal research and helping people, the spirit world has reached out and touched me several times.
No, and I can give people an example. I mean, this is what's so funny about it is, while everybody knows where I come from. So, but the point is that yes, I definitely acknowledge paranormal activity. I definitely have been an investigator in these things. I've been a demonologist and things like that. So I've seen and heard things that people. I don't even tell the story, Scott, because people just won't believe it.
Yeah, they look at you like you're nuts.
Right, and I just don't tell the story, so I totally get it. But when I felt like the resistance coming into this, plowing into this area of research was, I've never done it. I've never seen a greater set of barriers put up in front of me in my whole life. What have you experienced?
Oh my God, are you serious? It's Jersey barriers, man. It's concrete block walls. Everywhere you go, the odds are against you. It doesn't matter how smart you are. Doesn't matter where you come from. You are going to find major resistance almost immediately. And, when I first started my YouTube channel, I was kind of hesitant about doing it. But, just like you said, this was a passion, and I wanted to make a mark on this now forming Nibiru and Planet X community. And I just felt like, if there's not a group of us out there doing this research and trying to find this disclosure, then, mankind's going to get let down one way or another. But if we can get out there and we can touch 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 people, they're going to remember it. And they may remember it in a very serious time of crisis when things are going very, very bad. Like I said, they may look back at a video that they watched of mine, or a video that they watched of yours, and these may say this just may save their life, at a point where things are very critical. And I truly believe in that. And the things that I have learned by listening to John Moore and Gil Broussard, I mean, I really solidly think about these things every single day. And if I wouldn't have watched their interviews and their videos, I would be lost. absolutely lost.
It kind of comes back to what I appreciated. Can you hear me, Scott?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So it kind of comes back to, when you were doing the Nibiru is not Jupiter video yesterday, which I thought was excellent. I thought that you really brought a lot of knowledge to bear that we all know is common knowledge. But it's like, guys, our community knows who Farada is, right? We know who Harrington was. They would know the difference between Jupiter and Nibiru, don't you think?
Oh man, whenever I first I woke up that morning, and I think I had something like 774 emails strictly headed, what is this Jupiter is Nibiru? And I was pretty, thrown back by it. I didn't know what people were saying because I didn't have a chance to review that video. And once I reviewed the video that was up on YouTube, I was pretty well shocked, especially where the video came from. And, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that.
You and I both have that same thing. We try to support other folks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm actually a fan of that one YouTube channel.
As am I.
And I was really thrown back by it. And I watched it 3 times. And I tried to decipher a message from it, but I couldn't figure out what this was all about. So my subscribers were, getting very confused. And I went heavy into answering the emails. And then, the best way to do it is to put it together in a video and try to do the best that you can to get the information across. And the best way I thought to get it across is to go and talk about 2 gentlemen that are like the godfathers of this planetary system. And that would be Carlos Farada and Dr. Robert Harrington. I mean, Harrington gave his life for his findings. And I truly believe that man was killed. I believe that because I found out that right before Dr. Harrington started this journey down to New Zealand, that he had an extensive physical, working for the Naval Observatory. How could they miss extreme esophageal cancer? And then he comes back, he writes these papers, and then what? He passes away. Now, that to me is just, that whole conspiracy thing just blew my mind. And as far as Carlos Farada, I mean, that man is amazing. I would consider him in the same boat as Einstein. And it's just not the Nemesis solar system when you deal with Carlos Farada. I mean, that man predicted earthquakes. His predictions were dead on. So you have to respect their intelligence. If you don't respect these 2 men and their intelligence and their accomplishments, especially when you're dealing with this subject, then you're lost. You don't have any respect for anybody. So, maybe there's more to the Jupiter Nibiru story.
Well, let's stay tuned. I mean, I have an open enough mind to listen, right? But again, I've seen so many facts and so much information, and you know what I mean. And when you've studied as much as I guess you and I have, Scott, right?
Yep, absolutely.
What's going to happen is we start to get almost an intuitive feeling for what's true and what's not true.
Absolutely.
And I know that sounds like an arrogant thing to say, but I don't mean it any other way. But I was a bank teller when I was going to college. Okay. And when I would count money, all day long, right? If there was a counterfeit bill in that stack, Scott, I could feel it right away. Honestly, by feeling, I could feel it. Similarly, this happens when you're doing research on this stuff. You get burned about 100 million times. You get hoaxed a couple million times, right? People plant bombs on your car.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to talk about that yet. We're not done with you. But anyway, so, yeah, I mean, why would we not respect these vaunted geniuses that are, really put their necks out there? Scott, I don't know.
I'm just going to put it out there. You have to respect these men. You have to. I mean, you have to. You cannot discount Carlos Farada and Dr. Robert Harrington. If you do, then you need to remove yourself from this type of research and just go, take a hike.
Yeah, just acknowledge that you don't know this and have us come on your show and we'll explain it to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Me or Scott or both. I mean, between us, we've got a pretty good archive of stuff right now. And in fact, I was shown a couple okay, I got to go back to my screen sharing here. Did you see this? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so basically these are shots from various meteor cameras operated by NASA. And you'll notice TEL-US, and this one in the lower corner is Huntsville. And then the picture that I have in the middle, I wanted to show this to you because this is from a subscriber in Pennsylvania from yesterday. And I thought you'd get a kick out of this. Pennsylvania, that's where you're from and all.
Yeah, the reverse rainbow.
Well, not only that, I mean, I'm going to bump up the exposure a little bit here and saturate it up a little bit here. We still can't tell if that's a planet or not.
Look at that. Look at that.
You know what I mean? Because it just seems like that's like it could be the atmosphere of a planet. We don't know. You know what I mean?
I mean, here's the thing, and I've kind of bumped heads with a few people on this specific, like these types of photographs. So how is it possible for the atmosphere to create a perfect sphere in the sky? I think that's impossible. It's like they say nature doesn't form right angles. Well, how can the sky form a perfect sphere if it's not reflecting off of something, or it looks like it could be a hologram, but that is a perfect sphere. I mean, I bet you if you put a little compass in there and set a center point, you could make a perfect circle. So how is nature able to do that? So I believe that is definitely something creating that spherical shape. There's no doubt.
Right, and we don't know. Again, I'm not saying that this is a planet or not a planet, because there's a lot of phenomenon in space. And this is the other thing, too, that I get really tired of. Yes, well, we've seen a lot of things. And yes, I definitely was a space freak my whole life. As I think anybody that gets into this, I've always been a stargazer, sky looker. And I, in my life of 52 years, have never seen anything like this in my skies. Ever.
No, I've never seen the upside down rainbow. I mean, that's just. Like I said, I'm not a very scientific man, but I'm pretty smart. But I mean, what are the ways that something can form like that in the sky all by itself? An upside down rainbow? I mean, it has to be a reflection from something that is.
You can't see, just science. Okay, this is just kind of a science thing. It's a photon thing, right? So here's the sun down here, right? And here's the thing of it is that the sun would not be able to make a rainbow that we would see unless the sun was behind us, or this was behind the sun.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? Because in order for us to see the rainbow, the photons will bounce almost directly backwards, and that's why we see rainbows in the opposite sky from the sun in a normal rainbow.
Yeah, and going back to the sphere that's in the clouds, my photographer friend that works with me, we were reviewing photographs like this. And, like you said, we have this very intuitive feeling inside, and my eyes are already trained to see these things. So he said to me, well, you know what? Just tilt your laptop and you'll see it more clearly. So I did. I took the bottom of my laptop and I tilted it backwards a little bit, and there it was. I didn't have to highlight it. I didn't have to change contrast colors. All I did was tilted the computer back, and bingo, there it was. Now, that's kind of hard to do with a personal PC at home, but with a laptop, I just tilted it right now looking at your photograph, and that sphere is so prominent, it's not being made by Mother Nature. I'm sorry.
Well, again, this is where I was going to come down on this is just a little bit. It's like we really don't know a lot about space, and we think we do. We beefed ourselves up to believe arrogantly that we know something about celestial, objects and stuff. And I do believe astronomy has given us a lot of insight and knowledge. But in terms of composition, proximity, what happens when this happens, is this the result of a large supernova somewhere? I mean, all those kinds of things, we're really pretty clueless.
Yeah, I've looked at these photographs of these upside down rainbows, as I call them, and again, I could not figure it out other than something's making that reflection, a solid body of some kind that's very large.
Right. What scares me about it though, because my mind just does not want to accept it's that big in the sky, Scott. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that reminds me. I'm sure you've seen that video of I think it was down in Africa not too long ago.
Oh, yeah, a big rainbow, right?
Yeah, man. It looked like a massive planet, and they were all chanting and singing these tribal songs. And I watched that 10 times. And and I'm 48 years old, and in my 48 years old, I've seen plenty of rainbows. I've seen plenty of freaky things in the sky, but nothing ever like that. And I would like an explanation on that, and I haven't gotten one. That was amazing.
It was amazing, right? Right. So I'm going to put up, these are the pictures, and one of the things I wanted to show in these pictures, because I thought you'd appreciate this, is this is Huntsville, this is those NASA cameras I was talking about. They themselves captured a large object in their frame.
Look at that.
Yeah, right there. And then I'm not touching this up at all. And then up here, look at this. This is that kind of shield thing that we've been observing. It seems to be either a refraction or a direct photograph of that phenomenon as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
So one of the things that brings up is there artificial intelligence or not artificial, ET type intelligence, aliens involved? And that's what's been scrambling my brain. Let's just say my brain's getting scrambled pretty hard about the whole thing. But the point about, is there extraterrestrial intelligence involved in this, event is just, it's mind boggling. What do you think?
I'm moving towards something in almost like a different dimension. Because I've seen hundreds of these translucent spheres, but they're translucent, but they have detail. So I showed some of these translucent spheres to my friend that's a professional photographer, and he was stumped. And I asked him, I said, listen, Bob, tell me, is that a lens flare? Is that an anomaly coming from the camera? Do you think that would be something, atmospheric? He said, Scott, I'm sorry, but I've never seen anything like that. And he's been a photographer for 25 years. And I have to respect his intelligence and his opinion. So I used to take a lot of my paranormal photographs to him. And, a lot of them dealt with the orbs and things of that nature. And I took some photographs of some orbs to him, and we analyzed these orbs under a microscope, I guess a photography type microscope. And they basically looked like a cell, like a human skin cell. When we magnified them, they almost looked like they had, like some kind of plasma in them. And when I started to see these types of photographs, that kind of reminded me of the paranormal type of orbs, which are, in the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth, the seventh. And I truly believe in the interdimension theories. And when I'm seeing those photographs, that is what I am thinking, because I have seen large, massive, translucent orbs that cannot be lens flare. They cannot be photographic anomalies because, number one, the camera's pointed to the left, but this anomaly is in the upper right. And there's no light in the upper right. So how's that possible? But it's there. It is there faintly. And, these translucent orbs, I wish I had the answer, because I'm losing sleep over them, because I'm starting to see them more and more in the photographs that are being sent to me from all over the world. I get about 2,000 emails a day, and that is no lie. And I am seeing these translucent orbs.
I am one person on this earth that can validate the volume of email that you get, because I see the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And then just recently, I had to apologize to a lot of my subscribers because I forgot all about my spam box. And I don't know how I ended up with, 3,000 emails in my spam box from the beginning of August. And I didn't even realize, I didn't check it. And, people were sending me 2 and 3 emails and saying, hey, listen, I sent you some very good pictures for you to analyze. You never got back to me. You got back to me on this one, but not this one. And then we just so happened to check that spam box, and wow, was there a wealth of information in there.
Well, they mess with us quite a bit. And again, this is something that Scott and I will tell you, having grown channels in this environment, is that it's like emails don't get to us. Our emails don't reach other people. Phone calls don't go through. Cell phones are zapped out. Computers are zapped out. It's this whole litany of things. And trust me, Scott's a personable guy. I'm a personable guy. We would never intentionally ignore any of you guys, ever. That's never going to be our intention. The second thing you'll notice, too, and I want to just kind of put this out here, watch out for imposters on us. because there's a lot of people that are pretending to be Scott or I on comment sections. And, just be careful. I would never say anything mean or hurtful, other than if I see a really bad troll, I might tell them to eat TP or just pick on them a little bit. But that's it. That you never see me like smash somebody's channel or anything like that. No.
Oh, they've done it to me. I mean, I had to change my logo for my YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago, and because they copied my logo of my YouTube channel, they created another YouTube channel and Google Plus account, and then they were literally going into every single one of my videos and harassing the people responding in the comments section with absolutely filthy comments. And, I started to get a few emails back saying, hey, I really didn't appreciate that comment that you made about my wife. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then that's how I went back and I found it. And it took me a little while because I get 1,600 to 2,000 comments under my videos because of the trolls. And I found the comment, and there was my logo, and there was my YouTube channel name. Now, I reported it to YouTube, and 2 days later, they sent me an email back, and they said that they felt that it did not fall under their identity theft or imposter policy. How is that possible? It was my exact YouTube station name. And then they used my real name. And then they put Scott Sion Dickhead, and then made a YouTube channel, and then started, commenting on the videos. And I went to YouTube about that. They sent me the same form letter back. Sorry, Scott.
Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I lost you. All right. All right. So up to and including threats on our lives, Scott, what just happened? I mean, you definitely are a emotional, passionate guy. You told us the story a little bit, and you've been sharing, but somebody tried to kill you, man.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. Saturday night, about 1:30 in the morning. I'm not going to get into too much detail because it's definitely a very serious ongoing case, but very nice neighbor of mine that lives across the alleyway noticed that there were two people lurking in the alley while he was letting his dog out, and the dog was barking, and he was trying to shut the dog up because it was 1:30 in the morning. But then he saw these two individuals. One was laying underneath the rear of my car like a mechanic, and the other one was kind of standing in the middle of the alley like a lookout. They were dressed in black hoodies, dark colored pants. Obviously they're doing something wrong. And he immediately yelled at the one, hey, what are you doing? And the guy never answered him. So he came out of his gate. And when he came out of the gate, the one that was under the vehicle immediately got out from underneath the vehicle, and they both jumped him. And Joe is 66 or 67 years old, ex-steel mill worker, but he's in fantastic shape. Well, they put him in a chokehold, and, they ended up going down to the ground, and he ended up pinning one of them. But it just so happened that a few guys leaving a social club, right up the street from me, saw what was going on. They intervened. Thank God they did. And make a long story short, when the police got involved and this and that, they ended up finding a pipe bomb that was right on the inside of my rear tire, wire sticking out of it, and they had cut the wiring harness that goes up underneath my rear wheel well, and I guess it led to my tail lights, because I had to have that repaired because my tail lights wouldn't work, and I have a brand new car, so But I guess they were trying to wire this pipe bomb to my gas tank, and whenever I would maybe like hit the brakes or turn the lights on, it would detonate the pipe bomb, therefore blowing my gas tank up. And got a phone call yesterday, and the day before, and this device was dissected, and it was filled with gunpowder, which is traceable, and it was also filled with double-aught buckshot large shotgun pellets, and that definitely would have pierced my gas tank. It would have ignited the gunpowder, and it was probably enough to flip my car upside down. And that would have definitely killed me. But these two individuals, right now, they're in a lot of trouble. And they had 3 cell phones. They had a laptop. that was in their possession in their vehicle, which was found down the block. My YouTube channel was live on the laptop, and they had 3 identities between the 2 of them. One of them was from one of them was from Louisville, Kentucky. The other one was from Maryland. They were both about the same age. I think the officer said 25, 26 years old. So they're in a lot of trouble. They may not see the light of day for quite a while.
Well, thank God your neighbor, you have a good neighborhood. You have good connections with local authorities. I mean, here again, Scott. I mean, I want to make a point to our subscribers, both our subscribers, because I got to hear about your background a little bit today. And just let me tell you guys, Scott and I are not the wallflower, kids from high school. We are the ones who have relationships with the sheriff, who have relationships with local law enforcement, who have friends in the local.
I'd like to thank all of our Nibiru watchers. You guys do a fantastic job. Would also like to thank you for your loyal subscribership. You can continue to email your photographs and your video to NibiruPlanetX2016@gmail.com. And don't forget to share our videos with your friends and family members on Facebook. And subscribe to the Nibiru channel for all of our current updates. And like I always say, keep an eye in the sky. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is October 13th, 2016, and yesterday I had the grand opportunity to be a guest on WSO with lead creator and Nibiru researcher Steve Olson. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite all of you to listen to this interview, and it was a fantastic interview. I definitely think it is worth your time, and if you have not subscribed to WSO, I urge you to subscribe to Steve's channel. There is a wealth of information that deals with Nibiru. So sit back and stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. It's Steve Olson with WSO. It is October 12th, 2016. I am here with my special guest and new friend, Scott, from the Nibiru channel. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Great. And by the way, here is Scott's channel, and he had to do a backup channel. We're going to be talking about that on the show a little bit today. But I really wanted to start out by encouraging everybody to go to the Nibiru channel and subscribe to Scott's channel, because we really need to stick together as a group. And Scott, you are doing a wonderful job giving us this news format, which I love. Thank you very much from all of the community.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. So Scott, thanks for coming on. And the first thing I wanted to just ask you is, we don't get a lot of time to hear a lot about you other than the kind of the tribulations you've been going through, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But
oh, Lord, I know, right?
Amazing stuff, right? And we're going to talk, but how did you first get into this? I mean, Scott, what's your background? How did you get here? Tell us a little bit about you, man.
Well, it all started I started college, University of Miami, 1986. And I think it was about my second year in college. I had a theology professor, fantastic man. And just during one of our classes, he broke out into this lecture about Planet X, the whole nemesis theory. And we all sat back and we were like, what is he talking about? I mean, we're in a theology class. This has nothing to do with earth space science, astrology, astronomy. But we were like pretty well tossed on this. But he went into this whole subject, and I was pretty intrigued by all of it. And I always loved earth space science. And he wanted to form basically like an astronomy club within our group. And very few people actually joined it, but I stuck with it. And just to make a long story short, years after that, graduating and being thrust into industry and business, I did keep up with what information was out there, and there really wasn't that much. And he did turn me on to the research of Carlos Ferrata and a little bit about Dr. Robert Harrington. But mostly Carlos Ferrata, and I was pretty intrigued by Carlos Ferrata.
Wow! So this professor in the University of Miami, in a theology class, in the context of learning about theology in college, turned you on to the Nibiru concept. Wow! What an early adopter, man!
Yeah, it was very strange, and I mean, he also turned me on to paranormal research, and I mean, I've been doing paranormal research for 22 years now. And I do have my own paranormal team. I have a huge Facebook page dedicated to it. And, I stay pretty steady, but, over the last 6 months, being thrust into more research and more investigations into Nibiru, I've kind of fallen away from it. But my team is still very active in the paranormal area. But right now, Nibiru is taking up 12 to 14 hours of my day, 7 days a week, and it's pretty much nonstop. And I've put together a small team of people to help me because, number one, I'm not a professional photographer, but I do have a friend of mine who does own a studio, and he's a professional photographer. I turned him on to this by asking for his help at looking at some photographs. And in the beginning, he had some very jaw-dropping moments because he never heard anything like this before. And I recruited him, and he's taught me a lot, and I've taught him a lot. But he does help me out with the photographs, and he has taught